Gang, as promised, in studio with us, our Detroit Lakes representative, one of the most unique and fascinating people I've ever met. And also, it's your birthday coming up, or like right now, so pretty rad stuff. We have Mr. Justin Hewitt of Hatch Realty in the Detroit Lakes area. How are you, brother?
Doing great. Thank you, Erik.
Justin, you have a fascinating life story. Oddly enough, we didn't meet until somewhat recently, maybe in the last 12 months, but prior to that, like my mom used to work under your parents. Like there's this fun little backstory of how our paths crossed. But let's not talk about our parents. Let's talk about you. And so you were born and raised where? Tell me your life story and the cool things you've done, because I am so fascinated.
I was born here in Fargo, North Dakota. I graduated from South High, and once I graduated, I decided to spread my wings, if you will, and travel out to the mountains of Montana, where I went to school.
Okay, and you were kind of a ski bum out in Montana, right?
Well, that was a little bit later.
Okay. Piece this all together for me, because you've done some really, really fascinating things.
So post-Montana, I actually decided to go to South Korea for about 3 years and taught English.
Hold on. How does a guy from Fargo go to Montana and then South Korea?
Well, the Zennial that I am, paving the way for millennials, I decided to get a marketing degree, and I didn't want to use it. So I wanted a little adventure in my life, and a couple of friends from college and I decided to go to South Korea and teach.
So you taught English for 3 years?
Yep.
What was that like?
Amazing experience.
Yep.
Immersing yourself in a culture, and you learn a lot about the world. It gives you a real different perspective coming from Fargo, North Dakota, for sure.
Yep. So what happened after South Korea? You're now, 25 years old, and the world is your oyster.
After South Korea, I pursued a career really in climbing. Became my passion.
Is that a thing? Like, can you have a career in climbing?
No, it's more of a vagabond bum type thing, which is super fun. But it can bring you places, yeah.
Okay.
And it did. It actually, in 2006 and 2007, I got the opportunity to do a expedition to Mount Everest.
Okay.
Which was quite fun.
Now, I'm gonna plead ignorance here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you climb Everest? How does that work? What's the difference between hiking and climbing and Everest? Because that's a big deal. Because you summited, right? You got all the way to the top.
Yeah, we did summit. It is a lot of hiking. There's a lot of vertical ice and rock climbing involved. Basically you got to really be physically fit and aware of your limits and your environment, and have a good partnership with whoever you're doing it with.
Okay, so 2 people went?
Yes.
Okay, and how long does it take from base to summit to climb Everest?
We were on the mountain for about 62 days, if I remember correctly.
I don't know of many things I've done for 62 straight days in my life, except for hopefully bathe. Right?
Yeah. And there was very little of that.
Yeah.
I will admit that.
So when you go to Everest, how tall is Everest, by the way?
29,032 feet now. It grows like an inch every year, so it has changed a little bit.
Okay, and base is at what height?
The base of the mountain, base camp would be about 18,000. Advanced base camp is about 21,000.
But the challenges have to deal not only with the vertical challenges, but now you're all of a sudden 5 or 6 miles up, right?
Yeah.
That's got to play a toll on your body and trick you in a lot of ways.
Yes, the air is very thin. You can become what's called hypoxic, which is basically lack of oxygen to your brain.
Yep.
So things become very dreamy, hallucinogenic, very interesting. My partner and I have very different accounts of what happened on the mountain, especially during our summit day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very interesting.
And how many days did it take to summit?
We did our summit push was actually about a 36-hour nonstop push, which was pretty brutal. Very little
and
sleep.
hallucinogenic, as you said.
And hallucinogenic, yes.
With the thin air.
Yes.
How many people in total have summited Everest?
I'm not sure what it is now. Quite a few since 2006 and 2007. It must be 4,000 or 5,000, I would guess now. Don't quote me on that.
4,000 or 5,000 people in the world, in the history of the world.
Yeah.
That's obscene. So we tell that backstory because you are not like other people, Justin. You now find yourselves, give us a very brief synopsis of what happened from 2006 and 2007 until now. How'd you end up back here in the Lakes country selling real estate with Hatch Realty?
After the Everest thing, I actually landed in Aspen, Colorado. Got involved in the outdoor industry, doing some buying and marketing for some shops in Aspen. And about a year and a half ago, I kind of had a life-changing event myself.
You had a pretty tragic accident, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty tragic. Well, it wasn't tragic,
but I mean, close to tragic accident.
Very close to tragic, which changed my outlook and perspective on kind of some of the stuff I was doing. So I decided I wanted to come back to this area and be closer to my family.
Yeah.
And, after kind of thinking about things, decided that this would be an avenue that I would like to pursue to be able to kind of be involved in a community and be able to help people really with, the biggest things that they might ever purchase in their lives. And
so you found yourself to real estate.
I found myself to real estate, yes.
So the story goes, though, like, even though you were born and raised in Fargo, like, every weekend and summer day growing up was spent in Lakes Country, right?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
What lake were you on?
Big Cormorant.
And now?
Big Cormorant.
Okay,
Still there.
So like the center hub, I think there's 2 or 3 premier lakes, and there's a lot of fascinatingly great lakes, but the 3 that people know the most are Big Detroit, Pelican, and Big Cormorant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those are kind of the largest lakes that people have opportunity for, right?
Yes.
And so now you're living out in the Lakes Country, and you have a chance to represent things there. We talked about what's happening in Fargo in the market. What's happening in the Lakes Country? Because does anybody actually buy and sell real estate in the winter?
Yes, they do a little bit.
Lakes. Yeah.
They do a little bit. And, when you say Lakes Country, we have this kind of perspective that it's just lakes. But, there's all sorts of cool little communities out there that aren't just on the lakes as well. So, stuff kind of moves around the lakes as well. The lakes certainly slow down, but there's still opportunity right now. If you're looking for a place, it's off peak. So, there's definitely opportunity there. And if you're wanting to sell, there's also, people, like I said, looking for those off peak kind of, deals.
Well, the fascinating thing I find right now is if it's December right now and I choose I choose to have a lake place for the first time and I'm gonna make a purchase. Right now is when I start looking, isn't it? The average home buyer looks for 12 weeks and then it's gonna sit in escrow for about another 6 weeks, and that gets us to spring.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Now is actually a really opportune time. Justin, as you're exploring Lakes Country, you've had a chance now to cover a large amount of the surface area that provides for us a really large reach with Hatch Realty. What areas do you cover, starting at maybe Hawley?
Really from Hawley. So there's kind of, you could say there's a bit of a triangle all the way from Hawley to Detroit Lakes, maybe even out to Perham, and all the way down to Fergus Falls, really.
Yeah, and then you're also getting up to Park Rapids too, right? Like.
Yes, a little bit out in Park Rapids, and actually all the way up to South Twin, which is just east of Waubun.
What do you find as you're out there talking with sellers and buyers? What's their feel? Because we had this interesting thing. I've done real estate for a while now, and I jumped into Lakes Country right away in 2012, 2013. I don't know if I was cut for it. In all honesty, I've never lived on the lake. I didn't know the lakes exceedingly well, and I don't know if me being a Fargo guy was what they wanted. I think they wanted a lakes person to represent them. What do you feel and see out there?
I would have to agree. It's advantageous to be in the area and really know the market and know the different lakes and the different communities. Kind of what drives them, what surrounds them, because they all have a very unique and different feel. So there certainly is an advantage to being out there full time. Yes.
Right. I would say this. I think that if you're choosing to buy or sell in the Detroit Lakes area, you certainly have your options. My opinion would be this: that your best representation is going to come from somebody who serves there consistently. That it's what you know and what you know exceedingly well. And Justin, you have aligned. We don't let you sell in Fargo. If you have something, you refer it out to us, right? And we want to make sure that you are an expert in your backyard. Let's talk about lake value for a quick moment, because I think people are always curious. What's the most important thing that reflects the value of a property?
Well, there's definitely a couple things, but the number one thing that's going to reflect for somebody, in this area is really proximity to the FM area.
Yep.
That really seems to be the thing that
So
separates
it's
prices.
the lake you're on and the proximity to a large metro, right?
Yes.
It's strange. Even in Detroit Lakes, it's still location, location, location. Like
Absolutely.
that's what matters most, right?
Yep.
But when it comes to determining value, the lot matters a lot, doesn't
A
it?
lot matters a lot, yes.
What makes a lot more expensive? What are the features?
Well, a level lot, no elevation, a sand bottom,
Yep.
no weeds, and, something that you can actually maybe build on or, put another building on in addition. Parking is also a very big issue, yes.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I think that if anybody's listening right now and you have that itch to sit by the beach this summer and to have a bonfire and a great chance to enjoy lake life, or if you want to live there full time, I think those opportunities are there because Justin has the privilege of covering both things that are on the lake and just in the lake region. So what I want to encourage people to do is to go to livefargomoorhead.com. You're going to find all our information there, especially for the lakes area. And Justin, we love having you on our team. You've been crushing it representing us, and I know the best is yet to come. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Folks, we're going to swing to break. In the meantime, go take a look at some lake property at livefargomoorhead.com.